Welcome to Envision Broadcasting, the station designed to encourage, equip, and empower you for growth and success. Thriving Women Talk is an affiliate of the Trendsetter Mentor Group, an exclusive membership for mentorship. My name is Andrea Boenzi, and I'm streaming live today from Tucson, Arizona. Thank you all for tuning in to the #1 talk show for thriving women. We call ourselves the Thrive Tribe because we represent women like you that are progressing, flourishing, and thriving. And our mission here each week is to inspire and empower our listeners to thrive, not just survive, on your life's journey. So I wanted to take a quick moment and introduce you, our listeners, to our beautiful Thrive Tribe. Today we have joining us Noelle Ramos, registered rep with CoreCap Investments. She's out of Grayson, Georgia. Sabrina Protic, author and certified life coach out of Tampa Bay, Florida. Stacy Soli, menopause coach from Palm Harbor, Florida. Carmen Miller, attorney at Carmen Miller Law, joining us today from Holiday, Florida. And then we have Thriving Women business correspondents. Joining us today, we have Deidre Pittman, a tax strategist out of Tampa Bay, Florida. Dana Washington, a real estate investor out of Riverview, Florida. And Sherry Thompson, who's a financial coach out of Flossmoor, Illinois. So thank you, ladies, for joining the Thrive Tribe and joining us today. And also thank you to our listeners for joining us on this beautiful Tuesday. We wanted to lean in and thank our local, national, and international listeners for just hanging in and hanging out. It's definitely been a journey for us. A great show, and we really appreciate you and your feedback as we are walking this journey together. So thank you. Also, Thriving Women is continuing to support and thank the doctors, nurses, firemen, policemen, and first responders who are waking up every day around the world to serve and protect while we continue to do our part and shelter in place. Today's hot topic is pretty interesting, and I know it's definitely been affected with the last few weeks. We've had some significant change in our lifestyle, and so today we're going to talk about co-parenting and how it's affecting 24 million children in the U.S. alone. So this is just based on research by been told that there's 24 million U.S. children younger than 18 who are living with an unmarried parent. That's pretty significant, 24 million. Most of them, 15 million of them, are living with a single mother. And in comparison, 5 million are living with cohabitating parents, and 3 million live with a solo father. So I can attest that as a single mom and having 3 kids, I understand that that's significantly more stressful recently, I think, than in the past. So we're going to lean into that a little bit more. Why is the topic of co-parenting important with 16.8 million Americans filing for unemployment in the last 3 weeks? That's a big number. Big number of children that are living with single parents, and then we have that compounded with our workforce really just being adjusted and inflated by then. So about 1 in 5, or 19%, say that they've had a major impact, including about 1/4 of women, Hispanic adults, and Black adults. So that's 1/4 of each. Large shares across demographic groups report that worry or stress related to coronavirus and unemployment has had a negative impact on their mental health. So, and that's something that we were talking about last week. We're talking about mental health and really just focusing on trying to keep yourself grounded, different ways that we could do that. We had a great resource on last week that shared some tips. So today we're going to lean into the co-parenting realm, and we invited Layla Bloodsworth, who's the founder of Plan for Peace. She is also a licensed psychotherapist, a parent coordinator, and family mediator. And she's going to share with the Thrive Tribe and our listeners what, whys, and hows of co-parenting. So this might be something that really hits to you. Maybe you're a single parent, maybe you are co-parenting, and that's tough enough. That's a tough enough job as it is. And then we enter this virus with all these unknowns, and um, so we definitely need to find a way to adjust. So we're excited to have Leila on today. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule to share your passion. Would you mind also sharing with our audience, Leila, what is a parent coordinator and what's inspired you to make this your occupation?
Well, thank you, Andrea, so much for having me on, and it's my pleasure to be here. In 20 years of being a parent coordinator, I can tell you there's a lot of people, both professionally and parents, that still don't know what a parent coordinator is. So I've been on a mission. A parent coordinator is a non-biased professional that typically has an advanced mental health degree, some training in domestic violence, training in mediation, and experience in dealing just with high conflict co-parents. So a lot of people, whether you're divorced or separated, I'll just use the term divorce to make it brief in our explanations, but people will divorce and they'll be able to figure, things out, and it's not what anybody signed up for or planned, but they're able to figure things out and just kind of move on with their life. Mm-hmm. But then there's a whole nother percentage of parents that we know, typically about 25%, that are in that higher conflict category of parents that, even though they try their best or they really want peace, they're just not able to figure it out for lots of different reasons.
Right.
So a parent coordinator can get in there and help parents to learn more effective communication skills, to learn when you don't share your life with someone, but you share children. How do you make decisions? Because there's not always a right or wrong. Does your child go to soccer or karate?
Yeah.
It's kind of managing those waters of dealing with your child's needs and what your wants and wishes are compared to someone else that might not respect you anymore, might not trust you anymore, and getting a third party in there to help you learn psychoeducational issues, recommendations developmentally, age appropriately, to help you figure out what you want and need, what your co-parent wants and needs, and then, what does the research say that works in the best interest of children, and having educated discussions and decisions that the parents make. So I know it's a lot, to cover, but that's really, it's not therapy. We can't be dual rolled. We're not doing therapy. We're not diagnosing. We're not treating. It's not mediation. It's kind of this, supportive resource for both the parents to feel like they're not in a litigious or legal battle. Like, this is a person here for both of us. I'm not a judge. Yeah. I'm not a jury. I'm not trying to figure out, who's right or wrong. If you think it's 80% your co-parent's fault and 20% yours, well, let's work on your own percentages and not get into a competitive type of dynamic where no one really wins that. So a parent coordinator can really help parents to focus on what's important and make good decisions in the best interest of their children. And then they own those decisions. Like, they made them together. I'm not a decision maker. A parent coordinator doesn't tell you what to do, or, I'm going to give you my professional, obviously, insight and suggestions, but then it's up to the parents to work it out. I really pride myself in helping parents to become very autonomous or independent in figuring it out. The courts are there and they're important. Attorneys are there and they're important. But wouldn't it be great if you could work with someone that teaches you for the lifetime relationship you're going to have with someone, how to manage, family issues.
Yeah, and I, speaking from divorce, you may have heard me say I have 3 children, and that has been a challenge, and it's unknown territory anyway. And like you said, we don't plan to get married to get divorced, and so when you're navigating that, it's one thing. But then enter the children of all different ages, and how can you communicate and be effective parents, even though you might not see eye to eye on other areas of life. It's a challenge. So I love that there are people like you out there to help the parents navigate that journey, because it's a challenge. It's not easy at all. So I have a question for you. For me personally, the coronavirus has changed the way that we parent a lot. Have you noticed in your clients a shift in how they're communicating with each other, or do you feel like you have to do a little bit more work?
Right. Well, first of all, I will say, just because I think it's important when you're trying to learn from someone or, share information, that I'm also a human being. So I can tell you that I went in 97 through my own divorce. I have two sons now, 33 and 25. And I had just finished my graduate degree and was getting a divorce, and I did it terribly. And I said, oh my gosh, here I am with a mental health degree and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just not really great at this.
Yeah.
And it was surprising to me. I'm like, I would think with education and knowledge and all these things about mental health issues and best interest of children, that I would be a really good person to get a divorce from. But I definitely had my shortcomings, and I thought, wow, we went to a mediator, and that, proved helpful in some ways, but it wasn't the extent that people need. If you have high conflict before you get a divorce, once you get a divorce, you don't become better at communicating.
No.
Those issues are just magnified. So as time went on, I was like, wow, I've got to find, a way to get some education for myself, but then to be able to present it to other parents. And then you throw in something like a virus that's not just, you're going to get sick, but whether you get sick, whether you pass it on to someone else, whether someone, can feel, so bad, be hospitalized on a ventilator or possibly die, that level of anxiety for people is really put, I think, a lot of pressure on co-parenting relationships where people already don't trust each other, already don't respect each other a lot of times. And when you're mama bear and you're trying to protect your child, and maybe you're not really, happy with your co-parent or the way the communication goes, what a difficult time with this virus and the situation, with an already difficult situation. So I've definitely seen an influx, a lot more. But I'm grateful because the PC process is being used. Like, I couldn't be more proud of our courts here in the 6th Judicial Circuit in Florida, because they are continuing, because we can do telephonic and video chatting to refer families that are still having issues, and maybe more so now with this virus, and needing the help that they just can't navigate through on their own, and there's children stuck in the middle of this. So it's definitely been an opportunity. I've seen some parents that I never thought would get along step up and put their differences aside, and just really get child focused and learn, how to share and how to do it better, and just it's changed their priorities. So that's been a really, positive, I think, consequence of the coronavirus, is being able to see people that I never thought in a million years would probably get along, but they're doing it.
Yeah, and that's something that kind of my situation. We weren't getting along at all. Nobody wanted to talk to anybody. And then all of a sudden this happened, and it's like, okay, we're coming together. And it's been a positive impact for our kids. And, so I'm encouraged by that. And I'm praying that when this is all over, we can continue that relationship and that communication. But, if it hadn't, and if it doesn't continue, how would somebody like me, get started if the other co-parent refused to work with somebody like you, a parent coordinator?
Right. Because a lot of times we talk about, in high conflict cases, or parents that aren't getting along, that there's this invisible trauma that happens. So if you're a parent, you're seeing perhaps your child is emotionally going through something because of the conflict, or because of just the decisions, that are being made, all kinds of reasons. You can't really call, like, a child protective team, or make an abuse report and get some help or some relief with that, because it's this invisible trauma that we know the longer it goes on, the more risk children are of developing problems down the road. So we make reference to the ACEs, Adverse Childhood Experience study, that clearly lets us know that there are consequences down the road for kids stuck in high conflict. So the good thing is, if you're a parent that would like to try a parent coordinator, and you think perhaps maybe your co-parent is not about it, they won't agree, simply because you ask for it, they're going to say no. So one of the things I suggest is, first and foremost, before you mention anyone's name, you might mention the process and, ask your co-parent, would you get on a conference call with me and talk to, someone that might be able to get in here that doesn't work for the courts. It's going to help us both. Always keep it, neutral, and this person can help us both, can help our child, can listen to all of us. It's not, oh, can you go so you can get some help, or can you go so you can understand what I'm saying? The more
Right.
neutral you are, the more we that you have in your words, the more likely that your co-parent's going to be able to hear it and digest it and consider it. But I invite parents to call me first, whether it's alone, or with their co-parent. I think it's important to speak to someone and know someone that's going to be in such an important role. It's important for both parents to choose that person. But if those efforts don't work and you can't get your co-parent to agree, then in the state of Florida, we can get a court order. One party or the other can file a motion asking if they can show cause or reason that they need help with communication in ways their child might be, suffering or experiencing hardship right now without that intervention, or anticipated things. And that's just being proactive as a parent, saying, I'm not doing this to force you to do anything. You don't know what this is, or maybe you don't right now think it's helpful, but I'd like us to try, and I'm not doing this to force you into anything. I just think we need help. And as long as both parties agree that financially they can handle the fees for a parent coordinator, then a judge can order both parties, even if one parent does not want to participate. It can become a court order.
Oh, wow. Wow. Interesting. So that's in Florida. Be interested to know what other states would be. Very cool.
Right. And I'm not sure about the other states, but I know definitely when someone understands that I'm just, a lot of parents are like, well, we've already put out all this money, for attorneys and this and that. And now we've got to go spend more money and nothing's ever worked. It's a very hopeless feeling. So as a parent coordinator, I'm able to get in there and go, this is a different process, and it gives you not just information, but the tools to practice negotiation with each other and how to, participate in non-defensive communication skills where you're not always competing or criticizing each other. And it's been a beautiful process for me over 20 years to be able to get in there and help people that never in a million years, they didn't even want to sit in the same room together.
Right. Right.
I'm not always their favorite person on the first visit, whether they come court ordered or not. Some parents just agree together and come in. But after, it's like I say, it's kind of like going to the dentist. You need a root canal and you don't want to go and you'll avoid it. And it's probably not so pleasant first time around, but everyone's got to get their issues out, and everyone has to consider maybe thinking a little bit differently about things. And then eventually coming to me is like you're cleaning at the dentist. You're like, oh, wow, this is good. I have a place to go to keep my teeth healthy, but it's keeping your family healthy.
Yeah, no doubt. Awesome. So we need to take a quick break, but before we do, would you mind reading the poem that inspires you to thrive and not just survive as a parent coordinator?
Absolutely. So this is a poem on a girl who was 11 years old, a case I had. I have all the children write a letter to their parents just kind of explaining how things feel to them. And this was an 11-year-old gifted child, a little girl who was failing in school despite being gifted. And instead of writing a letter, she wrote this poem to express what it felt like to be in the middle of them. And the name of the poem is Invisible. So I will read it to you now.
Okay.
When you argue and raise your voices, I can hear you. I'm not invisible. When you curse, blame, and call each other names, I can hear you. I'm not invisible. When you threaten to leave and never come back, I can hear you. I'm not invisible. When you don't come to my activities together and tell everyone how horrible each other are, I can hear you. I'm not invisible. When you fight over the schedule and my time with you, I can hear you. I'm not invisible. When you hate and threaten to destroy each other, I can hear you. I'm not invisible. When you promise things will be better after divorce, but you're still fighting, I can hear you. I'm not invisible. When you see me cry, but can't stop fighting, do you hear me? I am invisible.
Wow.
So this was inspiring to me because, 20 years ago, I got this poem from a child, and here I am working in the, as a therapist, as a mediator, getting as many parent coordination cases as I can, and still feeling like I could get this same poem from a child today. Like something has to be changed in our system. Parents need the tools. They need the education. They need to know parent coordinators exist. They need to be referred sooner rather than later, because it's a shame that literally, I really do see very similar concerns, issues, and mistakes being made by people that really love their kids and really do have best intentions. So I appreciate you letting me share that, because it's moved me for all these years.
Yeah, no, that was very powerful, very powerful. Thank you for sharing that. We're going to take just that quick break, and then we'll be right back.
Great.
Thriving Women is sponsored by Trendsetter Mentor Group, an exclusive membership for mentorship. TMG is an exclusive Facebook mentoring membership for thriving entrepreneurs with a culture of caring and sharing. TMG's mission is mentoring, inspiring, and empowerment. Now, if you are a thriving entrepreneur and aspire to surround yourself with like-minded peak performers, join TMG's exclusive membership group on Facebook by sending a member request to the Trendsetter Mentor Group. We are the membership for mentorship. Back to the Thriving Women Talk.
Awesome. Welcome back to Thriving Women. We've discussed with Layla what is a parent coordinator and why you need one. And before we discuss the effect both parties coordinating has on the children and how to get started, I wanted to invite Sherry Thompson to share with our listeners our new inductee into the Thriving Women Hall of Fame. Excited to have this one announced. This is something we've been doing since we've started the show, and we've taken the last couple of weeks off, so I'm happy to be able to get back into the swing of it. Sherry, who do you have for us today? Oh, you might be muted.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just talking. Man, I am gone. I so apologize. Today we have Mashonda Schiffery. I think I might be mispronouncing her last name. If I am, I so apologize. She's an author, singer, and songwriter, and she is our new inductee. And this is why she received such high honors. Now, at one point, it appeared that Mashonda had it all: a burgeoning music career, a famous, successful husband, and a child she adored. The singer first met her now ex-husband, Kasim Dean, or a.k.a. Swift Beats, in 1998. And despite the heartbreak she experienced from a stillbirth, they eventually welcomed their son, Kasim Dean Jr., in 2006. And then everything changed. The couple separated in 2008 amid rumors that Dean was dating Grammy Award winner Alicia Keys, the woman he'd eventually married in 2010. The same year his divorce with Tiffany was finalized. An already heartbreaking situation was made even more challenging by a very public spotlight. Tiffany struggled between headlines about her relationship with Alicia Keys, also worrying about how the attention would affect her son, Kasim. Fast forward several years later, and Tiffany, Dean, and Keys have done a complete turnaround, now viewed as one of the ultimate Hollywood examples of successful co-parenting. Now, in raising little Kasim, who is now 11 years old, the two women have bonded and become close friends. It's their connection that inspired Tiffany to write her new book, Blend, The Secret to Co-Parenting and Creating a Balanced Family. She's come a long way. So, Dana Johnson or Sabrina Protic, do I have a comment from either one of you? That touched my heart when I read it. Number one, my heart got touched when they read that poem. I was in tears. And then I hear this of Mashonda that has come such a long way. You have some feedback for me?
Hi, Sarah. Yes, this is Dana. I do, and I actually feel like I know this story personally because I kind of heard it play out in the media, but I actually commend all the parents, all the parents involved. It is actually tough enough being a celebrity and being the kid of a celebrity with peer pressure and everyone expecting you to live up with the expectations of being a celebrity kid. So being in the public eye has just intensified this whole story, and it's no longer private. So I commend the parents for turning the situation around, and making their family whole again.
Yes, that is an awesome thing to do. That's right, going through that.
Dana, I had some follow-up on that as well. I actually watched this play out in social television, and I didn't see any hope in sight for the situation because it was really horrible. Like you said, it all played out in the public, and I just did not think that this was going to have a happy ending like it did. And this just shows the maturity level of all three of these adults here in this situation. But they had to look out for the best interest of their son, Kasim, and it appears that they did that, and this is a win-win for everyone. I went through a horrible divorce myself, and I'll talk about that later, but to see how this played out in a positive manner, it is something that we can all learn. So this book, Blend, is definitely on the top of the list for reading for parents who've gone through a divorce where there's children involved.
I agree 100%. This is Noelle, and I got to watch a little snippet of why they started writing the book, or what gave her the inspiration to write the book Blend. And it was because Kasim was just wanting to know why Daddy couldn't come see the new room in their house, or why Mommy couldn't come over during holidays. And at that point, that's when they really realized that something different had to be done. And, that's why it's important, like, to have having outside help come in to help you when it's not necessarily where you're too blinded, you're too in it, and you can't see it. And so that's why we have chosen this book to be in our Thriving Woman book club. So we're recommending everybody to go ahead and start reading this. We're going to begin next week. We're going to start journaling it. We're going to start reviewing Mashan. I want to make sure I say her name right. Mashanda's journey from surviving from a high-profile divorce to thriving in a life and business. I mean, difficult is divorce enough. It's just difficult enough as it is, but to be in a high profile, to be in the light, to be where everybody's scrutinizing, you can see, I can only imagine how much it's 10 times more difficult. So Stacy and I, we're just going to share a few gold nuggets on why we chose this book. And Mashonda stated in her bio the reason that she was inspired by this book. She was inspired by a doctor named Shefali. Probably going to butcher her last name. Sabari. She is the author of The Conscious Parent. And she set out to write a book, a kind of a blueprint, a toolbox for the 42 million Americans that marry again after divorce. So in it, she's talking about the roller coaster ride that she experienced before and after splitting up with Dean, and how the family managed to heal. And so another part that shows the sign of their progression and how they were moving forward was Alicia Keys actually wrote the foreword to the book Blend. So it's important for women overall, because Mashonda recognizes that she witnessed women holding on to the hurt and the pain from divorce. We all been there where we've held on, maybe not necessarily divorce, but we've held on to our hurt and pain. And she's realizing she was holding on for decades, and the only people that truly suffer, she realized, were the children. So she's an advocate for children's mental health and for women's as well. And it's definitely bigger than her dreams, she realized, and the goals for her family. It was a gift for her and to other families and women, those within the Black community, and she felt that they really needed a lot of help because they don't have many role models to look up to, and her children needed them. So Stacy, what are some of the things you got from this?
Yeah, as I was taking a look at this, I could definitely relate. I'm also a single mom as well, and one of the things that she talked about was, going through this, is that she realized that really healing starts from the inside, and that there's nothing wrong with getting some help, because she sat down with her psychiatrist to really to be able to get some help with this. And I think as women, it's so difficult to ask for help and to be in a vulnerable place to feel like we need to receive help. And this is such, I love that she was, chosen here to be the thriving woman, and that we're looking at this book as well, because, it's putting the ego aside. This is a big part of it. And I think that's what happens with a lot of adults and parents in this situation. And so it shows such a perfect example of asking for help and receiving it, even when others, didn't necessarily understand that, and that they did put their son first. So I love that. That's, a great example of not only co-parenting, but really being a great person, and that realizing that you have to do your own self-work, versus just blaming everyone else, and stepping into that place. So I'm excited to dive into the book and to learn more. And I could have used this several years ago myself.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a resource that, I'm proud that we're on a platform where we can share this information, the books, the guests that we have joining us. I feel that like Noella said, maybe we've not all been through divorce, but we've all been through some kind of hurt and pain. And as a mother, we hate seeing our children go through it. And, it's just unfortunate that they have to, but I'm so glad that we do have some resources, because when I started my journey, I felt so isolated and alone. I didn't think that anybody else could understand what I was feeling, and that I didn't have any help. My parents are still married, so there's certainly that aspect of, when you talk to your mom about things, she can't quite relate. And unfortunately or fortunately, there's so many of us out there that have gone through these situations that now we're starting to lean in and speak up and share our experiences. So, what an opportunity now, Stacy, that we have to teach others from the pain that we've had to go through, alone. And I don't feel that you've come out without cause. I think you've probably grown a lot from it, and just hearing you speak on other topics and even about your daughter is, you really owned it and become the best mother that you possibly could given the circumstances, and you're constantly stepping up to the plate and learning and educating and thriving, and that's really why we're here. So
Yeah,
interested.
absolutely.
Yeah, I'm excited about this book too. I did pick it up on Audible, so if you guys are thinking maybe reading is not for you, and even though many of us have some newly acquired time in our days, Audible's still a good resource for you to listen to the book, or you can pick it up. So we're excited, and it's a great transition into today's hot topic of co-parenting and life strategies. So what is co-parenting? Sometimes it's called joint parenting or shared parenting, but it's the experience of raising children as a single parent when separation or divorce occurs. So I wanted to get some thoughts from our co-hosts. How many of you are co-parents or have lived in a co-parent family? And what were a few of your challenges? So who would like to go first? I know we all have a story. Anybody want to pop in?
I'm happy to.
Okay. Thanks, Stacy.
Yeah, absolutely, Andrea. My parents were together all of my adult life, and they actually didn't get divorced until I was an adult. And so, I had a completely different lens of what it was like. And, after hearing that poem, gosh, it brought tears to my eyes, I gotta say. But my lens was that, marriage was easy and it was because they hid everything. So I didn't hear all of that. And so, now we go into the real life and it's not like that.
No.
So, it's challenging. And I think, like we've said, is no one ever goes into it thinking that this is going to be going to happen to us. And I think that's true with just about anything in life, right? We just kind of have this idea that it's not going to happen. But yeah, I've been a single mom now for the last 5 years. And even though my daughter's dad isn't always of the same vision that I am as far as co-parenting and my idea of what that looks like, I think one of the most important things that I have done that's really helped is to always keep the vision of what I want for her. And even if he's not necessarily in alignment or some of his actions aren't in alignment, I think just always holding that space and holding that vision of like being there for her, I think is really, really important, because I think it can be collaborative, even if the other person's not always, going along with what's going
Right.
with the same thing, but just still holding that vision, like this still can work, and just keep holding that space instead of kind of like, all right, forget it, it's not working, and kind of give up. So
Yeah, no, I think that's interesting. And holding that space open is it's imperative. And I think even as a parent, as a mother, we have visions. I mean, we have visions since we're 8 years old, of what our family's going to look like, the wedding day, and the birds are going to be carrying the veil down the aisle. And, like we have this vision. And when it goes sideways, we're not really given the tools or the coaching to adjust. So our guest, Layla, she's a licensed psychotherapist. She's a parent coordinator. We learned a little bit about that early on in the show. She's a family mediator. She's going to break down the two ways of problem solving and really kind of spell out the difference between strategic and the social, psychological problem solving. So, Layla, you're hearing our stories. You're hearing Stacy like recounting just her childhood and then going into her own parenting. How do you discern, I guess, there's differences there. Her parents didn't fight in front of her, where the poem that you read, the little girl was experiencing something completely different. So was that strategic? Like, how do you break that down?
Well, I think that, first of all, it's just, I have so much respect for everyone here today, just willing to share, your personal experiences in hopes of us all being able to learn from one another and help. I think a lot of times we think we're way more broken than we are. The system obviously contributes to that, and then not having the tools or the resources with a co-parent or help, it leaves us feeling like we're broken. And after a relationship ends, a lot of times you might not have respect for each other from a relationship standpoint, but we have to show respect for each other in our roles of mother and father. And when people can kind of wrap their head around that and stay in that lane, then going to an extracurricular activity you're not going on a date with your co-parent, you're showing up for your child.
Right.
And I think the better we get at wrapping our head around our child's rights to have both parents, even if someone isn't exactly doing the things that we would like them to do, that there's more damage to be done from arguing a lot of times than there is from maybe sometimes things happen that you're not happy with. And I'm not talking about abuse or neglect. I'm just talking about maybe some of the other problems. But when there's poor communication, that really, I think, is the foundation of real high conflict co-parenting relationships, poor communication and lack of trust. So the strategic model looks at just the issues at hand. And what I mean by that is when you're trying to share with your co-parent what your issues are, and I don't have a problem with parents' issues. Most of the time I have a problem with the way they go about trying to resolve them, and it's really simply because they need help with some tools dealing with a difficult person. But
Right.
in the strategic model, it's just really just looking at the issues at hand. You're not going to give any reference to any past things. You're not going to give any unsolicited opinions or unsolicited advice. You just take that out of the equation. And it's like the behavioral aspects of your child's problem are highlighted, as is like the co-parenting trouble spots then when you're able to do that, and you are not focusing on each other, because we have to take the problems with each other out of the mix. So you're not going to address like emotional reasons why problems are happening, and as co-parents you'll identify the problem and then negotiate choices and solutions as objectively as you can for those. So the strategic problem solving really directs each parent to resolve conflict through a careful approach. And there's kind of 3 steps in doing that. And the first one is just exchanging information about needs and priorities. And that really means putting nothing else in there. Even if you want to say something, if it's unsolicited advice or it's unsolicited opinion or references to the past, keep it out in your communication. You want to build up on shared concerns. So it's okay to say, I know we're both concerned about this, and remind your co-parent that you both love your child and that you do share similar concerns, and try to keep that mindset and really relay that respect to your co-parent. And then in searching for solutions, a lot of times people will communicate as co-parents, and most of the communication I get, because I have them all CC me or email me their communication to include me in that, or Our Family Wizard or Talking Parents, some of those other apps. But so often I see that the problem is a sentence, and then the rest of the paragraph is how you feel about each other, what you've done to each other. There's no solution in the communication. So you definitely want to not give the solution, but say, pose a question. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? And that's going to make your co-parent way more likely to hear what it is you think the problem is, and then to consider solutions or offer solutions in a real non-threatening way. It's all done without getting into yours or your ex's emotional needs, wants, and desires. You just stay away from that. And it's a skill to learn, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
When you remember, we're not in a personal relationship anymore. We just need to be here to identify issues for our child and then talk about the solutions, and really nothing in between. If that makes any sense.
Totally makes sense. And, it is something that doesn't just come naturally. I can certainly attest to it. You have the visions, and we've all done it. We've all written out an email or a text message, and then you're like, no, I better not send that. So you're like, delete.
Right.
My phone actually has a dead spot on the screen from where the delete button is, because I would just be like this thumb warrior over here, just angry and upset, and just the rage. And it's like, okay, I can't say that. So I would just like lean into that delete button. And I've purposely not gotten my phone fixed, because it's just that reminder of, really just choosing our words wisely. Is this really something that, does it make sense to send that, share it, or not? So
it's your little filter. And I've created the wristbands that have a hashtag I love my child more, and parents wear it during transitions, exchanges, just anytime, no matter what comes up, to remind yourself, like, whatever this problem is, I have to love our child more and just not take the bait or not be so reactive, because I'm not asking parents to not express yourself or not be able to share your concerns. Absolutely, we have to be able to do that. But if you want to be heard, we've got, there has to be strategies learned, which a parent coordinator can help you with, and how do you deliver what your concerns are and strategize working with your co-parent's personality and get the best result. And you know each other by now. I mean, you probably know before you send that text that you're not going to get the response you want, but you just have to get it out. And so often I'll say, don't send it, or let someone else read it, and keeping privacy as much as you can. But if you just stick to the issues at hand and what you feel the problem is, and offer some solutions and maybe some input, like you're not telling each other what to do, it goes so much more smoothly. You feel more in control by maintaining your emotionality, then it's, you kind of go off on someone or handle it in a way that for years it's not made a difference.
Right.
So it's not going
Exactly.
to now.
Well,
Right.
and like you said, it's you're being baited or vice versa. And it's just not focusing on the child. It's still going through that hurt, and dealing with your own personal issues with that person, and it's not solving a problem at all.
Right. And then the other, strategy that parents use is the social psychological problem solving. And that's really like, it is more of an emotional way of resolving issues. You still want to keep everything current focused. You never want to add, I feel this way because you did this before, or our kid feels this way because you did this to me. You just want to keep all of that out of it and just focus, at your attitude and your emotional reasons, for where the co-parenting blind spots might be. Because when we're too emotional and we have feelings about things, sometimes we miss a point that might be, really good to consider in regards to our child. So it's while the social psychological models are like the strategic model, it assumes that parenting conflicts are bound to arise, which we know, but it differs from the strategic model by focusing on the psychological factors that drive problem solving. The psychological factors that drive conflict and the inability for problem solving. It causes what we call an impasse, meaning, you try to negotiate, you're trying, but you just can't do it. So, when you're talking with your ex, if you use this model, it can be tough, but there's parent coordinators that can help, obviously. And it's okay if you never get, to this strategy, but if you do, remember not to be accusatory, not to be critical. If you invite your ex to see your side, with some empathy, compassion, like authentic concern for your child, it's always going to go better if first you show respect for your co-parent, let your co-parent know that he cares about your child's well-being, and then to say, but this is, what I'm seeing or what I'm thinking, and, this is how I feel about it, and, what do you think? It's less competitive and less,
Right.
Self-blame. Because a lot of times parents feel like if you're critical of me and you're not respectful of me, then what are you doing to our child when I'm not around?
Exactly.
I mean, it's very concerning that if you don't show me respect, if you don't talk to me respectfully, then how can I believe that our child is going to love and care for me in a healthy way, and our child's going to be okay? Because I'm going to think you're sabotaging our relationship, between mom and child or dad and child. So if you can really just stick to first, before you have a concern, delivering, it has to be sincere, a legitimate praise, a legitimate, acknowledging something about your co-parent. I know you, really care about our child's, grades, but I'm hearing that he's having a hard time getting his math done when he's there for the weekends. I'm not there. I'm not in your home. Can we talk about it? Because it looks like it's really frustrating him and blah, blah, blah. So it's like a different way to approach bringing up issues and keeping out accusations, criticalness. Because if somebody talked to you that way, I always say, look at what you're going to say. Think about what you're going to say. Would you respond well if somebody said that to you? True or not?
Yeah. Awesome. We need to take a quick break, but when we return, we're going to discuss the do's and don'ts that parents need to be conscious of when dealing with co-parenting, especially during this time of global crisis. We'll be right back.
Thriving Women Life Strategies is powered by Women Entrepreneur Empowerment, commonly known as WEE. The organization's mission is empowering women entrepreneurs through a platform of visibility, education, strength, growth, and development within the networking space. Their doors are open to all women, millennials, new startups, small businesses, and those needing a boost. If you are committed to excellence and you want to know more about WE platform, message for Sabrina Protek on Facebook or email her at www.agelesstechniques.com. Back to Women Thriving Talk.
Awesome. Welcome back to Thriving Women Talk. Our hot topic today is on co-parenting. And if you've been listening in with us, we are learning life strategies that will help our listeners thrive in these times of global crisis. So we have our guest on, Layla Bloodworth. She's a licensed psychotherapist and is the founder of Plan for Peace High Conflict Co-Parenting Boot Camp. And Layla, really quickly, can you share with our listeners how this parent coordination can work for them?
Sure. So getting a parent coordinator involved really gives you that resource for help. It brings a lot of accountability to a conflicted situation, or maybe parents don't agree, or you think you're making agreements and someone's not following them. So just having that person in between to really help you can do wonders, because a lot of parents need that help, and they feel like maybe some games are played or people aren't respecting the conversations or decisions that get made. So a parent coordinator just brings a lot of accountability and helps you to learn to do this better for years to come.
I muted myself. I apologize. I was just talking away too. So I wanted to lean into that. We were talking about some do's of co-parenting, and Sabrina, I wanted to ask you if you would mind just leaning in and sharing a do for you.
Yes. Well, yes, a big do for me, and I've learned how important it is to make the other parent look good, because oftentimes we want to highlight the bad. And we've learned, Andrea, I'm sure, like you said, that delete button.
Yeah.
I leaned in heavy on that too. But, beyond that, listen, let's face it, it's what you verbally say to your child. And if you downgrade that other parent, you're hurting not only the other parent, but you're hurting the child, because we're heroes in front of our children. We're mom and dad. We've always been heroes. And when we take and we turn one into the villain, well, that's just a big don't. So you don't want to do that. A big do is to exonerate the other parent and highlight their good qualities.
Yeah. Layla, what are your thoughts on that?
I think that's wonderful. I mean, again, that's separating how you feel about your co-parent personally and being able to show appreciation for the parent that your co-parent is, even if you have some issues with that as well. But, parents, I really find, tend to do so much better when, I want to talk to you, and I'm going to be willing to reach out or listen to you, when I don't feel like every conversation is a bashing session. So you've got to have that balance of being able to say, you know what, you did a really great job with our child's science project. I really appreciate what you did. Or, a lot of times co-parents just won't talk to one another unless it's the complaint, or it's, you just don't want to have to do it. But what ends up happening is you just build this negative, really avoidant type relationship where it's not necessary, because I'm sure there's a lot of positive things that do go on that you could be able to share. And it's so important for your child to hear that, to know that mom and dad, can recognize positive things in each other, and how do they resolve things when there's a problem. Those conflict resolution skills, the way mom and dad work things out when there's differences, you're modeling to your children. What do I just cut someone off, block their phone, never speak to them again? Because you're not building a soldier in your child when you talk bad about your co-parent. You're dividing your child's heart.
Yeah.
So I love
And then
that.
they come home and they're confused, and it just adds. There's a lot of hurt all the way around to that. And if you have children that maybe don't share the same co-parent, you've got the younger kids coming home and they think one way and say one thing, and the older child's like, no, that's not it at all. So there's conflict there, and it's just, I support that, Sabrina. And yeah, it's not always easy, but definitely take that high road. So let's talk about a don't in co-parenting. Deidre, were you able to jump on with us today? I haven't been able to see.
Hi, this is Dana. I'm going to make a comment regarding the don't.
Okay. Yes, Dana.
One thing is, as parents, we just can't burden our kids. You never want to sabotage the relationship by trash talking, and that goes back to what Layla just mentioned. Researchers says that putting the children in the middle of adult issues, it promotes unhealthiness and insecurities. causing the children to basically question their own abilities and their own strengths. And we know that it already is tough enough being a kid, so just adding this extra baggage is simply too much. And also another don't that is really important is don't be an unbalanced parent. And what I mean by that is we all want to be the good parent. We want to be friends to our daughters and buddies to our sons, but this could actually backfire. It could set into motion a cycle of resentment, hostility, and reluctance to follow the rules. So children, they actually develop best when there's a united front, really. And so co-parenting with healthy doses of fun, structure, and predictability, it's a win-win situation for everyone. So,
I would agree.
Thank you for asking.
Yeah, Dana, no, and I think that's a great point. It's easy to want to be the fun parent, especially when you have split parenting time. And speaking from experience, my own personal story is we have a 50-50 split parenting time. So it's a week on and a week off. And that's been really difficult for me because the two children that are going back and forth, my daughter is 9, my youngest son is 3, and they have that week to adjust. And so I tell my best friend, okay, I get them back on Monday, and I don't get them really back until Thursday, because the rules are different. So I feel that having that communication and staying the structured, you can't be the fun parent all the time. You've got to have the discipline, and they have to understand there are some consequences to actions, that kind of thing. It makes it a challenge because then it really kind of puts a rift, I think, between you and your children. Maybe my youngest doesn't want to come back home to me because mommy has different rules than daddy, and it's a big struggle that that's something that I've really been having to work through. Layla, do you have any thoughts or even just closing remarks for our listeners on those topics?
Well, I would just want to remind everyone that we don't want our kids to be forgotten in regards to emotionally what they're going through. A lot of kids that have been in an attacked household, and then that changes, and now they're in separate homes, or we call it by nuclear family system. When children see parents leave one another, there are a lot of times when they wonder, could that happen to me? So you've got to be patient with them and know there are going to be times when your children are going to tell you, I don't want to go to mom's, I don't want to go to dad's, or maybe there's going to be time where you're really wishing that they could stay with you. But just to remember how important it is for them to be a part of both parents' lives, and to support that, and to be an encouraging of that, and not to have your child emotionally caretake you, because your children need to see you be strong. You need to remember you're loved by your child, that your child loves you, and you're a good parent. And if you don't let anything interrupt that belief, you're going to do a much better job.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We're about out of time, but Layla, I wanted to ask you, how can our listeners follow you or contact you if they want to learn more about you and your services?
Absolutely. My website is www.bloodsworthintervention.com, and that has all my contact information and services. I have a plan for peace. It's a trauma-informed seminar for parents and professionals. That is a 4-hour continuing education course, but it's also a course parents can take to just gain more information and knowledge about the, things to do, not to do, that type of thing. And it will be online, hopefully by May 1st. And you can take that from anywhere. But I'm always open. If anyone calls me, I don't care where you live or where you're listening from, and you need some assistance, I do free consultations. And if you need some help knowing, do I need a parent coordinator? Do I need a mediator? There's lots of resources. I'm always willing to try to help point people in the right direction.
Awesome. We'll get that information shared on our Facebook group, and for those of us, or for those of you that are listening that would like to learn more about our Trendsetter Mentor group, please reach out to any of our hosts, send us a friend request or just a message and ask to be added to the Trendsetter Mentor group. And we can get you plugged in there where you can find Layla's information and some other great valuable resources that we have been able to plug in there for you as well. And I just wanted to say thank you, Layla, for taking the time today. I understand you are a very busy woman, and you have brought a lot to the table for all of us to think about. So an hour is certainly not enough time to really dig into it, but it's been great to have you on. So thanks again for joining us.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and just really everyone sharing and being brave enough to do that and caring enough to do that. It's really been my honor today to be a part of this and to listen to everyone and learn. So thank you.
You're very welcome. Also, I want to send a special thanks to my Thrive Tribe. So we have Noelle Ramos, Sabrina Potik, Sherry Thompson, Stacy Soli, Deidre Pittman, Carmen Miller, Dana Washington. Thank you, ladies, for joining and leaning in today and sharing your stories. And also a special thank you to our producer, Daryl Johnson, as well as our engineer, Alan. He's in the background making sure everything is working on tip-top shape. So we're very thankful for both of those gentlemen to help us with this show. And most of all, I want to thank you, our loyal listeners from around the world. Next week, we're going to continue our conversation on how we can continue to thrive while dealing with this adjustment. You've heard us refer to it as pivot. We have definitely made a pivot. So we're adjusting to the coronavirus, and we are, sharing our journey. So thank you for taking this journey with us. Thriving Women Talk is powered by the Trendsetter Mentor Group, a membership for mentorship. And again, please follow our hosts on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And if you're interested in joining the Trendsetter Mentor Group or even being a guest on Thriving Women Talk, you can email our producer, Daryl Johnson, at npartners@yahoo.com. So thank you again for joining us. It's been an amazing conversation today. We believe that you will continue to thrive and not just survive. You guys have a great week, and we will catch you back next Tuesday. Thank you. Bye-bye.